Most eBay sellers assume that price is the biggest factor in determining whether or not you make a sale when using best offers, but it turns out it's a little bit more complicated than that. I just finished reading a massive study that was just published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, where researchers analyzed millions of eBay offers spanning over a year, and their findings were pretty interesting and might seem counterintuitive, especially if you're a newer seller. It turns out that your response time, like whether you reject or counter an offer in seconds or minutes or hours, plays a huge role in whether buyers stay engaged in the negotiation process or just walk away entirely. But the role it plays may not be what you'd expect. So today I'm going to break down exactly what that study found so that you don't have to spend hours reading research papers like I did. And I'll tell you exactly how you can avoid common best offer mistakes and how you can use these findings to your advantage as a seller. But before I dive into those findings and tell you how you should adapt your best offer strategy, one important piece of context here is that while the study was done in 2024, the data set that they used was collected in the early 2010s, which I thought was sort of weird because back then most buyers and sellers were using desktop or laptop computers to buy and sell on eBay. And today eBay says that over 60% of their sales involve a mobile device. So that means both buyers and sellers are way more available and response times are faster and negotiations happen much more quickly than they did back then. So I actually think these findings may even be more relevant than they were when the data was first collected over a decade ago. Anyway, the first interesting thing that the study found is that currently most eBay sellers treat the negotiation process as a waiting game, which surprised me. I'm not exactly sure why most sellers don't act quickly when they get an offer. Maybe they assume that if they hold out long enough, a better one will come, or if they delay rejecting an offer, it makes the buyer feel uncertain or more likely to increase their offer. Or maybe they're not sure if the offer leaves enough room for them to still make a profit, or maybe they're just busy. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but regardless, the data shows that most eBay sellers delay their response to offers. But delaying is not a good idea according to the science. Here are 3 things from the study that stood out to me. Number 1, taking too long to counter does not encourage counteroffers. It basically discourages buyers. So if you thought that letting an offer sit for a while gives you some advantage, it's probably not the case. The study found that buyers misinterpret slow responses as a lack of interest from sellers, and they are less likely to make another offer. The second thing is that sellers with more years of experience respond faster to offers, and as a result, they sell more. The difference here is not some magic trick. It's just that experienced sellers are more experienced. They don't hesitate. They already know what a good offer is and what a bad offer looks like. They don't waste time making a decision. And number 3, sellers are hesitant to accept best offers on listings with a lot of watchers, but those watchers don't always turn into buyers. And I've talked about this on the channel before, so it's kind of nice to have some data to back it up. If you're holding out for a higher offer just because your listing has a lot of watchers, you might be making a mistake. But how do you use these findings to your advantage when you're using best offers on eBay? It's not as simple as just responding to offers more quickly. There's some nuance there. The study uncovered 3 major mistakes that sellers make. So let's talk about what those are and how to avoid making them. So mistake number 1, slow responses kill negotiations. So you might think that taking time to reject or counter an offer makes a buyer reconsider and come back later with a better one, but the study actually found that buyers who got slow rejections or counters were less likely to counter at all. The study said that buyers should, in theory, take slow rejections as a sign that their offer was close, because the extra time that the seller spent to respond was presumably to deliberate a close offer or something. But in practice, buyers just don't do that. Instead they get discouraged and move on to another seller. It's sort of helpful to think about this like in-person negotiations. Like say you're at a flea market, for example. If you quickly respond yes or no to a buyer's offer, it shows that you're confident in the decision that the offer is good or bad. But if you were to take a little bit of time to deliberate, buyers interpret that to mean that they have given a reasonably close offer that you need to think about before deciding, and that makes total sense. But it turns out it just doesn't work that way on eBay according to the data. So if you're rejecting or countering an offer, don't let it sit too long. What works offline does not work online. The data shows that delayed responses push buyers away rather than keeping them engaged. So basically, in almost all cases, you want to respond quickly to keep those negotiations moving and increase the likelihood of a sale. So mistake number 2 is holding out for a better offer that basically never comes. So some sellers assume that if they wait, a better offer might eventually show up, especially if that item has a lot of watchers. But the study found that the longer a seller holds on to an item, the more likely that they are to accept a lower offer anyway. So this means they could have made this sale, weeks earlier at the same price. So if your item's been sitting for some amount of time, I don't know, like 60 days or so, just start accepting reasonable offers instead of holding out, thinking you might get more for it. I mean, maybe you will, but the data shows that you most likely won't. And waiting too long could cost you a sale at the same price you'd be more willing to take a few weeks later. Mistake number 3 here is instant rejections leave money on the table. So I'm definitely guilty of this one. Rejecting an offer too fast can make buyers think that they weren't even close, and it could cause them to walk away when actually they may have been more willing to pay more money. Now, sometimes a quick rejection actually is a good thing, like when you get one of those ridiculously lowball offers from a buyer who has no interest in paying a fair price. In those cases, reject immediately. That's totally fine because it discourages further low offers so you don't get bothered again. But if an offer is anywhere within 10 to 20% of your lowest target price, the study suggests that more experienced sellers counter instead of rejecting outright, and they end up closing more sales at better prices, which makes sense. So if an offer is within a reasonable range, you should basically always counter offer instead of rejecting outright. This is a good reminder to not let emotions make business decisions for you. And I'm talking to myself here. You might feel tempted to hit that reject button when you see an offer that's offensively low, but the data shows that countering even just a little bit often leads to a sale. So just keep that in mind. So it seems like most eBay sellers don't really think about their response time when negotiating best offers, or newer sellers might have the wrong assumptions about delaying their responses. They might think that the methods that work for in-person negotiations apply to eBay as well, but that's really just not the case. They may not realize that their response time sends the wrong signal to buyers, and that buyers misinterpret those slow responses as a reason to walk away and go find a different seller. Or maybe those new sellers just don't think it's necessary to respond to offers in a timely manner. But now you know, your response time is a strategic tool if you choose to use it that way. The data shows that delaying is basically never a good idea, and that acting quick leads to more sales and better prices. And you'll make more money than your competitors who are still waiting for that, quote, perfect offer. Okay, don't go anywhere. This episode is just getting started. Yeah, so that offer stuff is pretty interesting. Some of that stuff felt pretty obvious to me, but I've been selling for a super long time. Maybe it felt obvious to you as well. But again, according to the data, if that was obvious to you, you're in the minority. Most eBay sellers aren't really considering their response time. Anyway, let's jump into my sales for the week. All right, so it looks like I had a gross sale amount of $1,503 and a net sales of $1,116. So a really great week this week. Surprisingly, look at that. Average gross per sale, $83.49. Average net per sale, $61.98. That's over 3 times my all-time average on both gross and net. So that tells me I had some really big sales. And it's true. I had one giant sale for just a ton of money. Look at that on the 18th, almost a $900 gross day. That's from basically one sale. That's why I did so good this week. I had one sale. This also reminds me of a theory that I have. I haven't talked too much about this theory on the channel because I haven't done the work to gather the data to validate this theory. And so take what I say here with a grain of salt. I have not backed it with data. But do you ever sell something that's worth a lot of money, and then several days after that, you basically get no sales? I have this theory that eBay puts sellers into tiers, and let's say that I sell on average about $1,000 gross per week. Let's say I'm in that tier, and if I were to sell $800 in one day, well, I've burned through my allotment of sales for the week pretty quickly, and therefore eBay is going to regulate my store, make my items less available in search, and keep me within my tier. And that the only way that I could graduate, say, to another tier that was making $1,500 on average is to more consistently do that over time. And again, I don't know if this is true or not. I have no data to back it up, only my own anecdotes, but it just seems like every time I make huge sales, look at this, on the 18th and 19th, I did pretty well, but then the 20th, nothing, nothing. I had no sales at all. The 21st, I sold a $10 item. The 22nd, I did sell $100, so it slightly went back up. It's actually, if you look at the eBay graphs, it looks even more obvious. Look at that. There's my big day right there, followed by an okay day, and then nothing, just crickets in the store. So again, I don't know if eBay's actually doing this. I would love to do the work to put the data together. I have a feeling that I would be able to find some pretty significant patterns that show when you make large sales in comparison to your average weekly or monthly, that there's some regulation going on and that you're just not going to get as many sales after that. If I end up doing that study, I'll definitely put it on the channel. Let me know in the comments below. Do you experience that as well? It's very strange. Anyway, 74% net profit margin. Looks like, only 10 new listings. I haven't done a whole lot of new listing this week. I've been focused more on resetting my store. I talked about that last week, about the practice of at least once a year going through your store and, getting rid of kind of the cruft in the store, and anything that I'm keeping, I'm ending and relisting and adjusting the prices as necessary. And so even though I only had 10 new listings in this past week, I still did pretty healthy on sales. And I think that's just because I'm keeping my store active. I'm ending a lot of stuff, I'm relisting a lot of stuff, and, end up selling quite a bit of stuff here. My average time to list over the past 7 days is 10 days. My average time to sell was 5 months. That just means on average, it took 5 months between the time of listing and something selling for the stuff that sold over this past 7 days. Only 18 sales in total, so not a ton. But look at that return on investment. My average is about 600, and we did 1,600 here. So, and we'll jump in and talk about exactly where that money's coming from and the sales that I made on my top 10 sales. But first, I'm going to do an eBay store review. So let's jump into that. A couple weeks ago, I asked my viewers, hey, do you want me to review your store? Submit it. I got a ton. If you submitted yours, thank you. I will get to it eventually. But at this point, there's almost, I think, over 300 people on the list to have their store reviewed. So be patient. I appreciate it. And hopefully you find just me reviewing other people's stores, even though it's not yours, helpful as well. So we're going to dig into one right now. This one's Josh. He says, is my inventory desirable? Is my pricing good? And should I buy a store subscription? Why am I not selling as much as I'd like? Thanks so much. So let's take a look at Josh's store. Then I'm going to jump into my top 10 sales. So Josh here is the Elegant Guest. Okay. Looks like, just taking a look here. Actually, this is a great reason to use the AI background right there on these. I'm assuming that's the AI background. Some ski gloves, putting them on, some snow makes a lot of sense. Kind of see a mixed bag of photo quality here. Like, that's probably too close. Like, you should have a little bit further away photo, for your main photo, and then some up close to get an idea. It's like, what am I looking at right here? It's kind of hard to tell. Center your items here. Have some consistent backgrounds. This is just my general advice. Some poor lighting. Looks like you're, taking this picture in a dungeon maybe. To consider the aesthetics of your photos here. Try to do as good of a job to present your items as you can. Some of these look great. Others not as great. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, your first picture here, for example, make the first picture clear what the item is, not an up close of the tag, because people are going to be scanning a bunch of listings. And if they just see a tag, what are the chances they're going to click on that to review the other pictures? There's going to be less likely than if you're going to show that. So show it up front. Let's go ahead and take a look at your full store and get an idea of the sell-through rate here. Let's see. You have 226 items actively listed. Let's see how many you have sold. 57 sold. So not a super great sell-through rate, but not terrible. And again, my feedback on image and photo quality doesn't mean your items are not going to sell. Look at this. I would call this a pretty bad picture, but they sold. So, it's not the end of the world. This up close of the polo, sold, but maybe would have sold for more money or quicker with a better picture. So it doesn't mean these things aren't going to sell. And I'm nitpicking here because that's my job of reviewing your stores, is nitpicking. So anyway, let's take off sold here and take a look at some of the stuff you've listed more recently and get an idea. What did you ask about? You said, is my inventory desirable? So let's see. Nike sports bra, probably desirable, probably a relatively low sell-through rate, very saturated. So, but also probably a lot sold. So, I'm not going to look, but that's my guess on this Nike sports bra. Yeah, Talbot's very, very saturated brand, women's clothing brand. So I like the idea of lotting them up together. Just know that this is just a very saturated category. Same with J. Crew. Mother the Smooth Hustler pants. Never heard of that brand. Paul Smith. Yeah, this is interesting. Carhartt men's hat Transamerica for. So this is like, was like somebody that worked at Transamerica probably got it as a corporate gift. Probably not going to be worth $25. You're going to have to find somebody who wants a Transamerica hat specifically. I just don't. Usually having a brand like Transamerica on a Carhartt hat devalues it. It doesn't add value to it. And so I would drop that price significantly. Wow, look at this. New with tags. $6,000 Brunello Cucinelli jacket. $3,600. Let's take a look at that. So keep in mind, if somebody wants to invest $3,700 on an item on eBay, they need to be very, very confident in what they're going to buy. The higher the price point, the more confident they need to be. So everything needs to be buttoned up. You need to have stellar pictures. This is just not a good picture. Extremely blurry. Hard to tell what I'm going to get there. This close-up is kind of gross, honestly. Like, I don't know why you need that close up of the buttons. Maybe you're trying to show that they're the brand on there. I get it, but it's just not a desirable picture at all. In fact, I think it detracts from the listing, honestly. There's the tag. That's great. It's going to show the original amount there. Yeah, I think you're just at a very high price point and your pictures are not good here. The only one of the full item in question. You got your fingers there. I'm not a fan of putting fingers in the photos. The only picture that shows the full image is very blurry. It's not a good picture. So I would pull this listing. I would pull all the pictures. I would just take some really, really great looking photos. Make sure that they are spotless if you're going to try to get this amount. But this seems high. I get that you want to get a lot of money for something that is valued at $6,000, but this is the secondhand market. Most likely people are just not going to pay that on eBay. Let's take a look though. I could be completely wrong. So there's a $5,000 one, but again, look at this listing compared to yours. They are using a stock photo. You may want to consider that. It is risky, but it doesn't come without risk to use a stock photo, but somebody's going to know exactly what they're going to get with that. But yet you want to use both a stock photo and your own photos. See, this photo is much better than yours here. Very clear, nice little background. Yeah, I mean, these photos are just a lot better. You want to make your listing look like this, as an example. Here's another one for $2,000. And again, look, this one is a $10,000 jacket. They're going for 1/5 of the price. And so yours was a $6,000 jacket. So that tells me you should be in like the $1,000 to $2,000 range based on that comp right there. Look at these photos. These are great photos. You need to be doing photos like this if you want to sell at this price point. I mean, these look like stock photos, but they're not. So on this, I would drop your price and just make it look much better. I would be surprised if someone felt comfortable buying at this price point based on this listing. Let's keep going. What else did you ask? You asked, is my pricing good? Should I buy a store subscription? So you want to buy a store subscription if you start to pay more in insertion fees than what the store subscription costs on a monthly basis. So you get an allotment of quote free listings with eBay. If you go over those free listings, and that includes relisting, then you start to pay insertion fees for every new relist or new listing. And if the cost, I think they're 30 cents or 40 cents, I can't remember. But if the cost that you're paying per month for insertion fees is higher than the cost of a subscription, then you want to upgrade because you'll get a larger allotment of quote free listings and the math will just work in your favor there. So it really just depends on how many you're listing and how many you're relisting. And if you're getting charged more in insertion fees, then yeah, upgrade to a store. There's other benefits, but that's the biggest one. Is my inventory desirable? I mean, not really. I've seen nothing here. Like 32 Degrees cool. That's like a Costco brand, I think. Let's just see what 32 Degrees shirt, 5,600 listed. 951 sold, so not a good sell-through rate. I mean, it will sell eventually, but it's going to take a long time. So not really all that desirable, and there's a lot of competition. Yeah, so Josh, is your inventory desirable? Not really. That's probably why you're not selling as much, is because you have relatively low demand inventory. And it doesn't mean it's not going to sell. It's just going to take a long time to sell. The lower the sell-through rate on these items, the longer it's going to take to sell. Is your pricing good? I didn't look at too deeply on your pricing. I just looked at that super expensive jacket. I'd say that's definitely overpriced, and consider the quality of your listings and your photos, especially at that higher price point, because it's just people are going to expect more the higher your price point, and that listing just didn't look good at all. Why am I not selling as much as I'd like? You need to have more in-demand items. And so when you are working with relatively low demand items over a wide variety of categories, you can have two options if you want to sell more. You can increase the total number of low demand items that you have so that you sell more frequently, or you can buy things that are in higher demand. Those are the two options. I would encourage you to do both. And over time, you will start to learn and understand how to buy more desirable items. So that's what I would recommend. And if you want to submit your store for me to review on the channel in the future, you can find a link in the description below, and be happy to do it. All right, let's jump into my top 10 sales for the week. Coming in at number 10 is this Sanrio Cinnamoroll bus ID card. This thing's kind of cute. Where did we get this? At a garage sale for 50 cents last summer. It sold for $19.94. That's $14.95 plus $4.99 in shipping. The net return for the 10th best flip was $12.26. This is just a cute little Sanrio piece. Sanrio is the same people who do Hello Kitty and things like that. So you just keep an eye out for Sanrio stuff. My wife knows way more about this than I do, and she was able to spot this and pick it up. Nice little flip for the 10th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 9 are these Valentine's Day socks that sold after Valentine's Day. This thing actually got a return on it. So it looks like we picked it up at a St. Vincent de Paul back in January of last year, so about a year ago, for $1. They sold not that long ago, back in December, for $18.99, and somebody wanted to return them because they didn't fit in their boots. That was the reason that they said. Of course they wouldn't. These are slipper socks. These are not socks. So I think this person just thought they were normal socks, but they are very thick slipper socks. That's why they're called slipper socks. Anyway, whatever. We accepted the return, paid for the return shipping label, got them relisted and resold just this past week for $24.99. That's $17.50 plus $6.99. The net return on this sale right here was $15.58. But when you factor in everything, that includes the original sale and the return shipping label and the refund and all that, our net return was $13.47. This is why you just don't sweat returns all that much, and why I'm happy to offer free returns. It's very attractive for buyers, and 9 times out of 10, when I get a return, I just relist and resell it, and I don't lose any money. I did lose like $2. I made $2 less than I would have otherwise. It's just not a big deal. Because people get so upset about returns, just let them go. Let people want to return stuff, let them return stuff, and then just relist it, and you'll make slightly less money. It's just not a big deal. Coming in at number 8, speaking of things that are selling out of season, this is a Duluth Trading Company Christmas shirt that I bought not that long ago, back in January 22nd. It sold in 27 days. I got it at a Savers for $8, by the way. It sold for $46.98. That's $39.99 plus $6.99 in shipping. The net return for the 8th best flip of the week was $24.31. Duluth Trading is just a great brand to look out for. This was a unique piece that, had little Sasquatches on it. It was new with tags. It was only $8. Kind of a no-brainer. I knew it was going to sell relatively quickly, even outside of the Christmas season. And 27 days. Coming in at number 7, we're getting very close to golf season here in the United States. These FootJoy Tradition Blucher, maybe, spiked golf shoes sold in 2 days. Sorry, 1 day. It took me 2 days to list. $49.98. That's $39.99 plus $9.99 in shipping. The net return for the 7th best flip of the week was $29.77. FootJoy is just a great brand to look out for. They make all sorts of clothing and golf shoes. The clothing can be very saturated and slow moving just because there's so much competition. The shoes I found do a little bit better, and these were decent modern FootJoy shoes in pretty good condition, and they sold pretty quick. Coming in at number 6, this is a weird one. I got this at an estate sale back in October, and this is just a category I knew nothing about. I saw this thing. It's actually really big. It's hard to tell from the photos. It's 10 inches from top to bottom, and I had in the listings the other measurements. I don't remember them exactly, but it's a funnel, like an apothecary ribbed funnel that you might use to, I don't even know, are you making potions, things like that. But I don't exactly know what the purpose is, but I saw it sitting there. I was like, you know what? This is like a heavy piece of glass. It looked old. It was interesting because it had this like ribbed pattern on it. And I was like, somebody is going to want this thing. And so I picked it up, and I was able to find a WT stamped on the side, and I was able to find comps, and they were really good. I paid $7.50 at this estate sale. It did take 4 months to sell, but it sold for $80. That's $65.67 plus $14.99 in shipping. The actual cost of ship was not bad. We were a little bit worried it was going to be expensive, but it was only $13.31. The net return for the 6th best flip of the week was $47.62. And now it's just great example of something I knew nothing about before, and just decided to pick it up and look it up and learn something about it. Now I just know to keep an eye out on these sort of older glass pieces that people might use for, I don't even know. Tell me. You let me know in the comments. What's somebody using this for? Are they mixing fragrances? I don't even know. Either way, happy to make $47 on it. All right, let's do one more store review. This is Brian. Brian says, is there more I can do to get more exposure without increasing ad rate? I'm currently using 2.5 on items less than $20. The more expensive items are not moving. I believe eBay is hiding them because I'm not promoting them. Other categories other than toys don't move much either. Thanks for the consideration. Sure, Brian, let's just address some of this right now. The more expensive items are not moving. I believe eBay is hiding them because I'm not promoting them. They're not hiding anything. They're just, if you're not promoting them, they're showing up less frequently in search, and it totally depends on the demand. What can you do to get more exposure without increasing ad rate. Basically, like, increasing ad rate is one tool that you have to increase exposure. Your item has a demand, right? It has a supply, it has a demand. It's very difficult to create demand out of thin air. And so if you're selling items that don't have a whole lot of demand, you can't artificially create demand. Like, the only way that you can is like by lowering the price significantly so that you're attracting a wider swath of buyers who may be interested at lower price points. But you probably don't want to do that either, because that's, effectively the same thing as increasing your ad rate. You're going to make less money at the end of the day. And so, there's really no way to get more exposure. Your items are going to have a demand. And the only way to get more exposure is to like sell different items with higher demand, for example. Let's take a look at your store. BM Toys. So I'll just say off the bat, when I think BM, I think bowel movement. So don't mean to offend you by any means, but I don't know, maybe consider a different name. Let's take a look at your photos here. They look good. They seem like high quality photos. Like, this is a good example of like, it's not on a white background and I sort of don't care. I prefer white backgrounds, but the photos look nice and clean. No real issues there. So not a problem. Here's, you're putting clothing on the floor. It'll sell. I'm not saying it won't sell, but like when I'm shopping for clothing, I probably am going to pick one that isn't laying on the floor. Maybe not all buyers are that way, but some will be, and you want to try to attract as many buyers as you can. So consider things like that, the aesthetics of your presentation here. But these photos look great. There's nothing wrong with them, really. It's a great example of why you don't necessarily need a background, a white background. All right, 989 listed. Let's see how many have sold. 700 sold. So you're doing great, Brian. 900 listed, 700 sold. Excellent sell-through rate. It's probably your category here. Your toys category just does pretty well. You're making some good money. I don't think you have any real issues going on here, but let's just take a look. What did you ask? You said the more expensive items are not moving. Let's take a look at your expensive items. John Deere, HO scale, train set includes 40. Okay, let's take a look at this. Your most expensive item. Let's see what competition looks like on this. So there's yours. Oops, I've forgotten the T there. We'll do condition new. Let's see if we can't narrow this down to the item that is yours. Just trying to get a sense here. Maybe there's a model number that will help. It's got two 7820 tractors. Does this like set have a model? That's what I'm looking for here. It's got a UPC, MPN. Let's take that MPN and see what that pulls up. So one result with that MPN, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And unsold. Let's just see what's sold in general. Let's sort by highest. And again, I need to remember what yours looks like here. Okay. Yeah, see, there's similar ones out there, but not exactly like yours. I just don't know this category well enough to be able to say what the difference is. I'm really not seeing your exact one on here, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. These do seem to sell, like similar ones that seem to sell quite a bit. You've got 80 you got 80 sold. And let's take that MPN off of there. And you've got 42 listed. So I would expect that this would sell. Again, I'm having trouble finding your exact one. There's yours right there. Like, you seem higher than almost everything else listed. So my guess is this is a pricing issue. And if you were to drop it to the 150 to 300 or 250 range, you might get more sales. But there's a lot of all the ones that have sold are not yours, and most of them that are listed are not yours either. And again, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. There's another one, $650. That seems wildly overpriced, but you are the lowest of this particular model. So my guess is it's a pricing issue. And it could be that this is just less desirable than other models, for unknown reasons. Let's take a look at a different one here. We'll try this ERTL Toy Farmer. This one's got a model, so we should be able to find exact comps here. Okay, looks like there's two listed. Let's see, yours is new, okay. Open box, I would call that. I don't know if that's an option in this category, but there you go. There's one brand new that appears to be unopened for $325. You're at $219 plus 10, so basically $220. I'm sorry, you're at $230, and you have none sold. So, if someone comes by and wants this, you're going to be the cheapest, but without any sold. Hard to say exactly what the value is. Let's see if there's any sold in product research. By the way, I'm using site search shortcuts to be able to quickly search in eBay for sold and active and product research. I'll leave a link in the description below that tells you how to set those up. None sold and 2 active. So again, the reason this is not selling is because the demand is unknown. So my guess is because it hasn't sold is the demand is low. That's why it's not selling. So it seems like once you find a buyer though, they'll probably pick yours. So thanks, Brian. I think that, I don't think I would necessarily increase exposure through increasing your ad rate here, because the stuff that I checked, you didn't have a ton of competition on. The more expensive items are not moving. The ones that I checked are because the demand is low. That's probably why they're not moving. I believe eBay is hiding them because I'm not promoting them. They're not hiding them. They're just people aren't searching for it. It's not an in-demand item. If it were, you would see more sales, and you'd see the ones that were actively listed would be sold. So, I don't think there's any hiding going on. There's not any demand there. But yeah, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Coming in at number 5, Maui Jim. You guys, I've been buying a ton of sunglasses in bulk buys lately, so you're going to see a ton of sunglasses today and probably in the near future here. These are Cocoa Head. Maui Jim sunglasses just do really, really well. These came from a bulk buy. I've got $5.20 on them. They sold in 15 days for $96.98. That's $89.99 plus $6.99 in shipping. The net return for the 5th best flip of the week was $72.64. Maui Jim is just a great brand. I'm learning. I previously thought that it was like a cheaper brand. Just in my head, I thought it was a cheaper brand, but definitely not the case. These sunglasses go for a lot of money. Coming in at number 4 are these Bose Model 700 noise canceling headphones. Did come with the case. I got them from a bulk buy. They sold for $100.02. That's $93.03. I did take a best offer on that, plus $6.99 in shipping. The net return for the 4th best flip of the week. 4th best flip of the week was $77.13. These did not have the model number on them, and so I struggled for a little while trying to figure out what model they were. But then once I connected them to my phone through Bluetooth, it showed up in the Bluetooth details. They were Bose 700 noise canceling, and I was able to confirm that with comps and list them appropriately, and they sold in 6 days. So Bose is just a great brand to look out for. Almost anything that you find with Bose on it is going to do pretty well. The things that I do avoid that are Bose are like the large home theater setups, like the multi-speaker systems. They can still do well, but they're just very large and expensive and more difficult to ship. And so if you're not afraid of shipping difficult stuff, you can still make some good money on it. I tend to pass on them just because I don't feel like messing with it. Coming in at number 3, another Maui Jim set of sunglasses, even more expensive than the last. These are the, I don't even know, Castle brand, Castle model sunglasses. All these Maui Jims have model numbers, so you can find out exactly what you're trying to sell. These went for $106.93. That's $99.94 plus $6.99 in shipping, and the net return for the 3rd best flip was $83.97. I had $5 into them. Coming in at number 2. This is another great thing about doing bulk buys, where I just get a huge load of stuff and I don't know what's going to be in them. And it forces me to do a bunch of research, and you're also sitting at home to do the research. You're not like in a thrift store trying to do it and be quick about it. And so it's nice to be able to learn about different brands. This is an excellent example of that. I'd never heard of Lunar glasses. They're made in Germany and they're very, very expensive. These sold for $154.53. It took 2 months, so they weren't the fastest selling. You'll notice they are frames only. They were prescription, and technically you can't sell prescription frames on eBay. It's a medical device basically, so you have to sell them as frames only. The net return for the 2nd best flip of the week here was $120.54. And just now I know Lunar is a great brand to look out for. If I see them again, I will pick them up. And that's just, always be researching, always spend your time to understand these brands, commit them to memory, and that's why the longer you do this, the better you get at it, because you just have more experience. That leaves us with number 1, another pair of sunglasses. Check this out. Chrome Hearts is the brand. The model is Nailer. These were made in Japan. They sold in 3 days for $659. That's $653 plus $699. Just incredible price. I listed them high. I listed them in the $700 range with best offers on, knowing I would take upwards of $500. Because look, I only have $8 into them. Incredible how quickly they sold. And fortunately, I already got positive feedback on it. These high ticket items, I'm always nervous that, they're going to get returned or scammed or things like that. And, 99.9% of the time, everything is fine. But it was nice that I've already gotten positive feedback on this sale. You can't get too excited until the 30-day window for returns has passed, but getting positive feedback on there is definitely a good, strong signal that this transaction is done. But yeah, look at that. Net return of $552.38. Did pay $13 in ad fees and final value fee of $80. So, those selling costs are very high. $100, but yeah, to make $552 in 3 days, just a great return. Chrome Hearts is a great brand. They make all sorts of stuff and just incredible sale. This is my best of the year for sure. Is it my best of the last year? I don't even remember. Let's take a look. If I go to all sold, let's filter by last year, and we will do net sales. And so my best sale last year was $385 for this vintage Sub Pop shirt that I sold to someone in Thailand. I didn't get to talk about this one because it was right around the holidays and I missed it on one of my top 10 sales. But yeah, that was my best last year, $385. What did this one sell for? I've already forgotten. 500 and something? Yeah, $552 on one sale. So that's why my sales were so high this week. Pretty awesome to see. All right, now that the lights are off here, we can really talk. We can just let our minds run. We can talk about anything that we want to. My son is sick. He was sick about 3 weeks ago with a fever, and he overcame that sickness with the help of some antibiotics. And I'm not exactly sure what the sickness was. I think it was a sinus infection, but unfortunately last night he started running a fever again. He's 13, and he's sick again. He's got, now he went to the doctor this morning and tested positive for flu A. I'd say that I'm feeling about 75% right now, not 100%. I've felt worse, but I've also felt better. I hope that this week does not go south for me. I would like to not get sick. I hate getting sick. Nobody likes getting sick. Do you like getting sick? That's it. Thanks so much, y'all. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.